That's a final look at kind of a summary of what we did in here with our shift forks, among other things, to create clearance. These units are made to fit a particular casting or all castings, you name it. And so as a result, the way the main shaft fits into the box and lines up with the lay shaft, the lay gear, ends up being a bit of a compromise. So we had an option here. We could have made some extra shims here and made this shim thinner, try to move this away. You can see the old gear here, there was contact. We had contact right here, second gear. This slider hub would come over and make contact with that gear there. We heard a ringing noise, we had this grinding noise when we rotated the box in actually the backward direction. We could hear it more because of the way the teeth kind of hung over. And it turns out our second gear on this straight cut monster set is probably a little bit bigger in diameter than a standard set. So as a result, our shift fork here, when it slid over, was actually making contact with the second gear right next to the position that it put the slider in right there. And so luckily it's just about the same arc as our angle grinder. And so we created clearance there. We had incidental contact. If the fork were to wear a little bit, you might start seeing contact with the outside here. And we don't want to take that down because, of course, that sits in the fork. That gives the strength of engagement. Here's the piece we're actually using versus the one that came out. This one actually has a nicer fit on the splines, and I would almost prefer to use it. I deburred and cleaned it. It's used, and so the dogs here have a bit more of a hammered look than the one I'm using. But this has a nicer fit on the splines. The other reason, kind of the decider, the reverse gear is a fair amount. This idler acts as reverse. It's thicker. And this had been pretty well bashed up, as was the reverse gear that came out of it. And that's a linkage issue over here. You got, grab the reverse fork. There's a certain amount of slop here that this can move, and that occurs even when you're in another gear. And so, given the way the shafts and the gears fit in this particular case, that gets awful close. When you're in first, these outer teeth right here risk bashing into this guy if these shafts move around at all in the box, even the free play of the lay gear. And so a lot of details, but we believe that this is going to go together and be just as smooth shifting and as strong a box as it can be. There's really so few parts in one of these. This is the actual jackknight dog engagement gear set. So strong, but as we've mentioned before, not to be gotten excited over for street use. They're just very close ratios, not at all streetable, but extremely strong because of that. You can see the shift forks in here without the 1-2 fork in place. You get a chance to look at the detents. Reverse. Alright, I think it's going to go together for real this time.